Good afternoon, folks. How's it going? Welcome to yet another lovely day in COVID-19 lockdown, hanging out at my house. I hope you're doing all right. I've got with me a ton of cupcakes, a bunch of these little mini cupcakes, because why the heck not? Nice and patriotic colors. Red, white, and blue with a couple of gold sprinkles on there, too. So, I don't know. I think these things look pretty good. And I did, in fact, run to the store for the second time in 2 days, which is absolutely insane. Man, you know you're feeling a little bit of, like, cabin fever when going to the store is, like, the exciting thing to do at your place. Oh, my gosh. I hope everybody's doing okay. I don't know how I can, like, actually get at these without making a mess of things. I'll try my best. I love these little mini cupcakes because you can just eat them in one single bite. That, and when you eat, a dozen of them, it sounds really impressive until you realize that they're just super, super tiny. Oh, wow. Those are actually really, really nice. Really fluffy. Oh, my gosh. And like a strong vanilla flavor in there, too. Like usually vanilla is just kind of like plain Jane, not a whole lot going on, but yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. I'm running a little low on milk, so maybe I'll need to make another grocery run pretty soon, next day or two. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope everybody out there is staying safe. Staying, relatively physically distanced from other people. I know it can be a real drag to, like, be locked at home away from all your friends and family for so long. But I hope people are out there, at least giving people a call, staying in touch with other folks. Because, oh man, being at home alone is day after day after day. It just gets so mentally and emotionally exhausting. It's not good. I am definitely looking forward to better tomorrow, where at some point I can go back to work and collaborate with people in an office. It'll be so nice. Let the record show, I've never had a problem with working in an office setting, even when, even in a time and an era where it seems like so many people just think that working in an office is like old school and not worth doing anymore. And I actually did see that the folks at Twitter made an announcement yesterday where they are reopening their offices I believe in September. It's like hard stop, a lot like Microsoft. They just put a stake in the sand, like at Microsoft. They said December we're reopening, going to get folks back in the office. But at Twitter, what they did was very interesting. Instead of saying that, everybody would be back in the office working in September, they said in September people had the choice to come back and work in an office. So they're saying that indefinitely employees are allowed to work from home if they wish to, which, on one hand, like, I think it would be great if Microsoft adopted a policy like that. Like, I would be totally stoked about it. I'd be one of those people who would come into the office and definitely work in that working environment. I know for me personally, I am 100% more productive when I have a dedicated workspace. I've got all of these distractions around me at my house, where I've got my television with my video games, got my exercise equipment, just all this other stuff that I could be doing. But when I'm in the office, like, working is the only thing that I can do, So I know for me personally, I would definitely go into an office. But even so, the worst part of working in a place like Microsoft, in my opinion, is that it's just super crowded. And the morning and the evening commute, even though I only commute a couple of miles, it's like, 30 minutes or 45 minutes just because the traffic is so bad. So if they did adopt that policy where folks had the choice to work from home, which like it is certainly looking possible, looking like it's a possibility that that more companies are going to adopt that policy, that'd be great because it means there's less traffic on the roads, you know? So I am all for Microsoft adopting that kind of policy. And it is pretty interesting that Twitter is really a pioneer in a lot of ways. Like, it's a bit of a smaller company in terms of monetarily and in terms of the number of employees that they have when it comes to the social media landscape. But they do pioneer a lot of practices that are adopted by a lot of other companies eventually, like Facebook. Who else is in the Bay Area? Facebook, Google, I think, is headquartered in the Bay Area. There's probably some other big guys there. I know Amazon and Microsoft are headquartered in the Seattle area, the Pacific Northwest. So let's see who is in the comments. We've got Cookie Cream says, hi, how's it going? Good to see you. Eric Winokur and Eric Gunnarsson, both back. Eric Winokur, you say, hey, Steve, it's like deja vu. Yeah, it certainly is. It's like deja vu all over again. Eric Winokur, hello to everyone. Finally lunchtime. Yeah, you know it, man. Having myself a nice and healthy and sugar-full lunch. Covering all of my food groups, frosting and cupcakes and bread and sugar. Frederic says, hey, Steve. That's what I was saying. Social isolation will create some psychological damage for many. Thankfully, your mom comes to visit with brownies and to cheer you up, lol. Yeah, that would be pretty great. I didn't visit my parents on Mother's Day, so I gave them a call, said hello. I was very happy to talk with my mother, sent her some roses, and not some roses, sent her some flowers. They were tulips, because she really likes tulips. And then I talked with my sister, who had her first child last year, so figured I'd give her a call, wish her a happy first Mother's Day. Hope she's doing all right. I know that a new mother, it can be pretty tough on some people, and I think she's dealing with it pretty well. I hope she is anyway. And she's also going to school. She was in school to get her PhD, so I hope that that's still in the books for her. All right, let's see. Frederic, you say it's super cool live stream. Thanks, man. Yesterday about Halo. A cool collection of shirts behind you. Which eating challenges are the most memorable for you? Oh, that's a good question. I always go back to Stuffy's 2. I've done 2 food challenges at Stuffy's 2 in Longview, Washington with Natter Freak Eating. Totally cool guy. I'm so happy to have been able to meet him in person a couple of times. He lives down in the southern-ish California region, so I don't get to hang out with him too frequently. But when I did see him at Stuffy's 2, we had one of their smaller challenges together, hung out. I did a live stream from there. And before that, I had actually met him at Stuffy's 2 previously to take on a 25-pound cinnamon roll with him and another competitive eater from Portland, Oregon. And that was a lot of fun. So I've done a lot of food challenges there. I think doing Sam's Tavern with Randy Santel, that's another one. I gotta say, just anytime I get to meet other competitive eaters out there, that's probably the most memorable. AJAT says Memorial cupcakes for lunch, or Memorial Day cupcakes for lunch. Yeah, man. Merca cupcakes all day, all night. Eric Gunnarsson asks about the flavor on the cupcakes. There's no flavor on that frosting, man. It's just frosting. It's just sweet. The cupcakes themselves are are vanilla, but the frosting on top, it's just sweet. Nothing super special about that. But I have 2 dozen of them, and they're super tiny, so I'm going to try to get through all of them. I feel like on my lunch live streams lately, I've been dragging. I haven't been eating nearly enough food, so I got to pick that up. Oh, we got Johnny Styles in the chat. Says, "Hey, Steve the Rabbit, how are you?" I'm doing great. I'm really wishing that this lockdown would end and I could go hang out with folks. I went for a bike ride this weekend and rode right past one of my old running buddies from the local running club that I would run with very frequently on the weekends. And I had to stop and talk with him because I haven't talked with anyone for so long. I know it was not the thing to do in this current climate, but I had to do it. I needed to have some social interaction. Oh my goodness. All right, so the topic of the day. I figure it seems like people generally like to hear me talk about nutrition and fitness and stuff like that. So I thought I'd combine the two and talk a little bit about fitness supplementation and kind of the fine line between what determines what's a supplement and what's a controlled substance by, as defined by USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Association, which, I think is actually a pretty interesting subject. There's a lot of debate over whether a substance should be considered a controlled substance or banned in sports and stuff like that, or if it's just a typical run-of-the-mill supplement. If you try to define it, a lot of people they tend to kind of take for granted how difficult it is to draw that distinction between the two. If it's just something that gives you an edge in sport, it's like, well, that would define energy gels, protein supplements, all this really run-of-the-mill stuff. And then you think like, well, maybe it should be controlled if it's, over-engineered or something that's synthetic. But then, like if you look at amino acid supplements, digestive enzymes, like there's plenty of stuff that would cover that's perfectly fine. Oh my gosh. Now my stomach is already getting a little bit too full of air, it feels like. So there's a documentary on, I believe it's on Netflix, that came out a year or two ago called Icarus, which was this absolutely fascinating look at doping in professional cycling and not professional cycling so much as it is the Olympics, and just how absolutely pervasive it is. And it was kind of surprising that this, amateur cyclist decided to basically start using performance-enhancing drugs for a season to see how it affected his performance. And it did reveal a lot. Like, I feel like most people think that these things, erythropoietin, exogenous testosterone, stuff like that, is basically like free performance. It's like, not so much. It basically just lets you work out longer and harder, and it lets you train more for whatever your sport is. And I do want the record to show, let the record show that I do not condone performance enhancing drugs in any way, whether it's clenbuterol or there's the inhaler drug that I cannot remember what it is now. It was a bronchodilator that it's kind of interesting story where I'm probably going to remember what the name of this drug is in just a minute, but I think it was I'm not even going to conjecture who was doing this, but one of the cycling teams in the Tour de France, all of a sudden, every single athlete on the team was diagnosed with asthma, because then they would get a therapeutic use exemption with these inhalers. So I just think it's so bizarre that they will go so far out of their way and not even try to hide it. Everybody in a cycling team all of a sudden gets asthma at exactly the right, exactly the same time. It's like, no chance. These are delicious. So yeah, it turns out that there's a couple of websites. Now, I am based in the U.S., so I mostly think about USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Association, and mostly look at these guys' rules. And if you're ever interested in this stuff, it's kind of cool to browse through, see what's a controlled substance, stuff like that. And mainly the reason that I got interested in this as an amateur athlete is that my, let's see here. I do think it's funny that on the front page of this, they have an article talking about somebody's favorite pre- and post-workout carbs. And they've got peanut butter in this giant picture, which has basically, it looks like almond butter, has basically no carbs. I thought that was kind of hilarious. But yeah, you can get these lists of really comprehensive guides. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Look at this. This thing is so giant. It'll list out all the different substances and stuff like that that are banned and that you're not allowed to use. So a couple of the interesting ones that I think come up are, for a while, caffeine was a controlled substance by, I can't remember if it was the United States Anti-Doping Association or the World Anti-Doping Association. But with the restrictions on it, like, they said that you were limited to using, I think it was 400 milligrams or 350 milligrams or something like that of caffeine, which is just so much caffeine. Like, that is an incredible amount of caffeine. So I doubt that anybody was ever caught and banned from their sport because of caffeine use. And it was repealed pretty quickly. Like, obviously, nobody liked that. So we have this list of things that are illegal. You can't use alcohol, can't use marijuana, obviously can't use illegal drugs. You can't use what's usually called gear to make sure that, videos that talk about it on YouTube don't get pulled down. You can't use exogenous erythropoietin. You can't use, let's see, what else can you not use? There's an amino acid that you are banned from taking via IV. I'm trying to remember what it is now. Oh gosh, I am blanking on that amino acid. But it's one that increases fat metabolism and aerobic performance. Now, it's perfectly legal to supplement with it orally, which unfortunately takes like 6 months of supplementation before it actually has an effect. So if you want to take it orally like that, you can. But if you want to take it via IV, you get those benefits basically instantly, and you're not allowed to do that. It's killing me now. I'm forgetting so many of these names that I'm usually able to just rattle off the top of my head. I don't know. Maybe I need some metformin or something to get my brain going. But yeah, basically they always have 3 criteria for what defines a performance-enhancing drug versus a supplement. And if a substance meets 2 of those 3 criteria, then it's usually controlled or banned completely outright. And that is 1, if it is dangerous; 2, if it likely enhances performance or has been shown to enhance performance. So that one's a little bit controversial, I think, because like erythropoietin is one that's banned, and there people go back and forth on whether EPO actually improves performance. And number 3 is if it goes against the spirit of the sport. So that's kind of like the wild card where, like with caffeine, like that is a central thing. Like drinking coffee is like a central thing to cycling. So there's no way that, caffeine is going to be banned from professional cycling, basically because like going on a bike ride and going to your local cafes, like that's basically what cycling is all about. People just love doing that too much. I should say that's very much in the cycling culture, not so much about performance, stuff like that. And you can find some like kind of interesting substances in that list that you wouldn't expect. I mean, if you look at things like exogenous testosterone, which is the most common form of anabolic gear, as it were, it turns out that using those kinds of things during a competition like the Tour de France actually improves the health of the riders. Like people who cheat and use that stuff come out of that more healthy than they would if they just avoided it altogether. I think that there's more legal things and more well-accepted supplements that people are starting to use, like beta-hydroxybutyrate, exogenous ketones, amino acid supplementation, stuff like that, which definitely help keep the health of folks for longer in those extreme endurance sports. It's unfortunate that, I got really into competitive triathlon as an amateur for many years. And at the time, I don't know if this is still true, but at the time, triathlon, like performance enhancing drug, the use of PEDs in amateur triathlon, like it was more common in amateur triathlon than any other amateur competitive sport. So, I'd go up against these guys thinking that I had trained just amazingly well, felt like I was in incredibly good shape, really, really healthy, really fit. And then I'd go race my heart out, and people would beat me by like over an hour from the amateur ranks. And I just think this is absurd. Nobody can do this. So I think for a while I was a little naive to it, but then I started to realize that, maybe some of these people aren't really playing fair. So after I realized that, I kind of like figured I'm just going to do it for fun. Like I'm going to try my best, try to push myself as far as I can, but I never expected to do super well in triathlon. And I had this absolutely bizarre experience one day at the gym. This was in 2000, I want to say at the beginning of 2016, when I had first joined up with a competitive obstacle course racing team. That was the year that I went out and did 15 or 16 Spartan races, just a ton of Spartan races all across the United States. Ooh, pardon me. And, so I'm hanging out at the gym. I was planning on working out, but... No, was I planning on working out? No, I was tapering for a long-distance triathlon that I was going to do in about a week. So I was planning on just kind of like hanging out, maybe doing a little bit of working out, not really planning anything too strenuous. And I ended up just hanging out in the hot tub for, 20 or 30 minutes. I got to talking with this other guy who's in the hot tub, and we were talking about sports. And he, eventually I was like, oh yeah, I do, some amateur stuff, try to be a little bit competitive. And he just immediately started laying into me about how I absolutely needed to start juicing, man. You need to get on the juice. Oh my god. And this this complete clown who just, oh my gosh. He was the kind of guy who was like, he looked like he was maybe mid-30s, looked like he lived in his mom's basement, quite tubby, really balding, like really unathletic. Oh my god, and he just... And he just went on this 30-minute monologue of how important it was that I go to a doctor and get a therapeutic uses exemption for testosterone, immediately. Oh my god. It was just the funniest thing. Oh my goodness. I can't think about this guy without laughing. He was such a clown. And, I'm sitting in the hot tub with my shirt off, and I think most people know that I look pretty, I look pretty cut. I look pretty fit with my shirt off. And this guy is sitting there, no joke, with a 7-Eleven Big Gulp cup. Just hanging out in the hot tub, telling me how to be a better athlete. It's one of these things that's just kind of like, why, thank you so much for that wonderful advice. I'll take it to heart, Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I am very open-minded. Like, if I'm at the gym and somebody sees me doing an exercise, and like, hey, if you change up your form this way, or maybe if you do like this kind of weight with this many reps instead, like I am perfectly open-minded to hearing that kind of advice from other folks. But somebody like that, like I couldn't handle it. I sat there, I just nodded. Okay, okay, absolutely, whatever you say, buddy. And in my head, I'm just like, this guy's a buffoon. He is such an idiot. I would never sacrifice my health for that kind of thing. I mean, the thing about exogenous testosterone is like, once you start using it, you're stuck. Like, you got to keep using it because your body sees all this testosterone coming in from elsewhere. It's like, oh, we don't need to make testosterone anymore. Just like those parts of your body they just atrophy away and stop working correctly. So yeah, there's no way I would ever like do that kind of thing, even if it meant that I would perform better in sport. But that is my rant for the day about performance-enhancing drugs and the interesting effect of those. And I think I like those 3 rules that USADA uses. I think it's, I think they're fair. I think it's a good way to determine the difference between PED and a regular supplement. Because I'll go out of my way to use, I use exogenous ketones to get me amped up for a race, and I use amino acids all the time. And these are like crazy, mad scientist substances that I'll put in my body to make sure that I'm doing better. But they're not things that are making me unhealthy, Oh my goodness. Let's see who stuck around for that enormous rant. We got a couple of folks. Frederic, looks like you've got a couple of things to say about it. You ask if I take digestive enzymes after an eating challenge. And asking about the digestion in general. So many people ask me about fasting. I eat when I'm hungry, and after a food challenge, I'm not super hungry. So like, I'm not going to go out of my way to fast. I will usually take digestive enzymes to, I'll take digestive enzymes to help me digest things, help things along. And you mentioned clenbuterol, that is a powerful and dangerous compound. It's pretty incredible. It's kind of like caffeine, like amped up to 11. It's what most people think caffeine is, I should say. I believe clenbuterol is more like adrenaline than caffeine. Caffeine is actually another interesting one. Don't have any time to rant about it today, but maybe sometime in the future I could talk a little bit about caffeine. And yeah, clenbuterol, it's very common for people who want to lose weight fast, and it sounds like it's really bad. I've heard a little bit about it and can't suggest it. You do mention creatine, though, definitely performance enhancing for sprinters and explosive athletes, but not dangerous to consume. Yeah, creatine is something super safe. Like, I think it's been around for a long time, and there's a reason it's been around for a long time. I supplement with creatine every single day. Use a couple of grams of creatine monohydrate once or twice a day. And that's interesting that it really affects your super, super high-end performance. As most people know about aerobic and anaerobic metabolism, and they basically consider that like glycolysis versus fat burning. And creatine is like, it's also an anaerobic, what would you call it? An anaerobic energy substrate, maybe? Something like that? I don't know. But your body burns creatine through an anaerobic process. But the thing is that you only have enough creatine stores to keep you going for between 6 and 9 seconds, depending on how well your body's able to like store and use creatine. So it's for those like super explosive efforts. So like Usain Bolt, he was going through the entirety of his creatine stores when he does a 100-meter sprint, stuff like that. Super interesting stuff. But yeah, it's like the very top end. So creatine, excellent supplement. I love it. I use it all the time. And you mentioned that it makes you think of Jason. I assume you mean Jason Genova, maybe. I've heard of that silly fella on YouTube every now and then. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know Jason personally. I don't know him too well as a personality either. Well, I got through most of these cupcakes. See if I can get through another few. Already been here for over half an hour though, so. I think I'm going to wrap it up there, folks. I think that was an absolutely delicious lunch filled with some nice fast-acting sugars. I think that these things would be great for like a mid-marathon. You know, pick them up at your mile 18 aid station. Give you that extra boost of energy to get you to the finish line. Plenty of simple sugars. Oh my goodness. I think more marathons need to give out birthday cake and stuff like that at their aid stations. That would be fabulous. All right, guys. That's going to be it for me for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thanks for sticking around for that giant rant. If, like, I could just turn on the camera and just riff for half an hour, but I do want to kind of do, like, topic of the day kind of stuff. So if anybody does want to, like, want me to talk about or would like to discuss with me even, any interesting topics, of course you can send me an email at that nice email address down in the description, or you can just show up and maybe I'll riff for a couple minutes and do some dialoguing, conversations, talk about whatever interesting stuff you guys want to talk about too. But I hope everybody oh my goodness, pardon me. I hope everybody is staying safe, keeping yourself sane. My tuner does not appear to like me tapping on this table, so maybe I shouldn't do it. I see my audio input is going into the red when I do that, so I probably shouldn't tap on the table too much. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. I'll look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow, and until next time, peace out. You guys take it easy. Oh, I wonder what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow.